Quantifying how much of cricket is played between the ears is an impossible task, but the mental aspect is clearly vital. Waugh showed how important the psychological game was during his Australian captaincy when he introduced mental disintegration, and his side ruthlessly embraced the idea. The Aussies displayed it 4 years ago when they beat England 5-0 and Jonathan Trott left the series early, unable to handle the venom of Mitchell Johnson's short-pitched bowling and the associated commentary on the field. Captain Steve Smith displayed his mental strength last week with a fighting 141 not out to steer his side to a Gabba victory from a position where England looked to have the best at their mercy. England have since intimated Australia went too far on the sledging front in the first test, which has left the visitors with a mountain to climb if they're to retain the Ashes. But how do you harness mental advantage and then turn it on your opposition? Waugh says the key is subtlety. Almost everyone playing at test level is strong enough to handle the bristle of sledge warfare when they're at the crease, so it becomes a matter of trying to enter the batsman's thoughts. It's about putting doubts in other people's minds and getting them maybe to think about something they shouldn't be thinking about, Waugh says. We used to talk amongst ourselves. It may have not been directly at a batsman, but it might have been about his technique so he could overhear it and all of a sudden he might start thinking, maybe they've got a point, my cover drive's not going so well or my defense is not 100% intact. You do it subtly because if you do it in an obvious way, the really good players, that motivates them. It's got to be done in a clever way if you are going to do any of that. Sandy Gordon was Australia's sports pyschologist for a period during Waugh's captaincy and had a front row seat to watch them break down opponents mentally. Ruthless domination of batsmen was one of the reasons they prevailed in that period, Gordon says. Every player had a lot of pride in their fielding performances. It was never just I'm a batsman or a bowler, I'm a fielder, as much as I am anything else. They took great pride in that, and they pushed each other as well. There was a lot of tough characters in that team, younger and older, I might say. Waugh led by example, of course, but there were others. Adam Gilchrist was awesome. Taking batsmen out of their comfort zone by dominating in the field threw opponents off their game, while constant verbal niggle was the icing on the cake. There's sledging and there's good humor, Gordon says. The stuff that gets personal is the most likely to impact a player. When it does get personal, then nobody's immune really. My advice was always take it as a compliment. They're not getting at you any other way, they're trying to get you. The sledge is trying to distract you in whatever way. Some players were more sensitive to it and less well prepared than others. It is a hard-nosed Australian thing, I think. Aussies. And maybe the Kiwis, too. It's something that in the southern hemisphere is almost ingrained culturally. It's just the Australian way, I guess. Psychology in sport is an evolving concept, particularly in cricket where lack of confidence can erode careers. There is no research that actually quantifies what percentage of the game is mental, but the guys that I know, Rod Marsh and Dennis Lilly, say it's 95%, Gordon says. Because of the time spent between deliveries, between overs, 6 hours a day, it does require a massive mental agility and ability and endurance. Professional athletes are assumed to be able to block out extrinsic variables, such as crowd noise and opposition chatter, but it's often an unfair expectation. Imagine what it's like when 40,000 opposing fans are singing deeply offensive songs about your personal life. The last thing you want to do is just ignore it, Gordon says. You can't ignore it, it's there, it's in the background. In actual fact, the research will show that more noise makes you concentrate better. I work with the Perth Wildcats now, and we're trying to get our media guys to understand that, rather than putting people off at free throws, it would be better to get the crowd to shut up because that silence is the greater distractor than noise. When you're being bombarded by vitriol, by the fans or fielders around you, you can actually use the noise to your benefit. That's how I advise players, bring it on. At first-class level there's very few players that can't handle it. It's a compliment, it's something that you can actually use to hone your concentration and focus at the right time. Waugh also used to use crowd noise as motivation. It's generally okay, unless your form's not good, he says. If you're not getting any runs, then the Barmy Army's into you. It's like bloody hell, give us a break. When you're playing well you laugh it off and it's all part of it and people enjoy it, it's almost a sign of respect. That's the way you look at it. If the Barmy Army makes a song about you, that's a sign of respect. If you look at it that way, it's all positive. But if you think they're having a go at you, then you start worrying about it.